Hello and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Calling all hairstylists and makeup artists. Would you like to have a strong wig knowledge? A solid foundation to build your wig styling skills on? Would you like to gain the respect of your cast, colleagues, and employers when it comes to wig work? And feel more confident in knowing how to handle, style, and apply wigs? Well, do we have a treat for you? Introducing Last Looks Workshops. Come down to Beverly Hills and join Jamie Lee and Rob Pickens in the Last Looks Workshops experience. Spaces are limited, so be sure not to dilly-dally. For more details, visit lastlooksworkshops.com.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today on the Last Looks podcast, I'm speaking with hair designer Shanika Terry. Shanika was happily spending her days creating fabulous hairstyles for her salon clientele in Texas when she was offered a job opportunity that changed her career path and now has her designing hair for projects like Atlanta, Mare of East and Bad Boys for Life.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Shanika.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, I would like you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Shanika, and when she grew up, she wanted to be...
a private investigator.
You did? That's really exciting.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was in love with Magnum PI.
Oh
yeah, Tom Selleck was everything to me, and I wanted to do everything Tom Selleck did. Miami Vice, you name it. I was that child that was just like solving crime and just fascinated with it. Research, all of that. I loved it.
That's so cool. So it's so funny that you would watch things like that and understand, I guess, that it's a job. Yeah. And that you could do it. So that's really cool. Yeah. What an imagination as well. I mean, you totally can be a private investigator. And it seems like such a strange job for a child to want to do, but you must have had a sense of adventure for sure.
Oh, definitely. I was always getting in trouble for disappearing. And my family was like, where were you? I'm like, oh, I'm just playing in the woods, me and my friends, just doing things, building stuff out in the wilderness. And I thank God that we were in a safe area and, nothing happened. But I definitely had an imagination that was very clear. And if anyone needed to find something, they would go to me. And yeah, I was always just they called me Snoopy. That was like a nickname that my family had for me because I was always snooping around finding stuff.
That's classic. So were you finding presents that had been hidden away in the house before it was time to open them? Or
Oh, yeah. And I knew how to remain mute. I would just be quiet and they wouldn't know a thing. And I knew what everyone was getting. I was that child. I was that one.
Yeah, I was that child too. But I did some really great acting when I would open my presents. I'd be like, wow, this is so amazing. But I would have already maybe found it like in mum's wardrobe or something. And yeah, so naughty. Yeah. Anyway, I told her years later and she was like, oh my goodness. She's like, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
This is my best acting yet.
Yes, I love it. Absolutely.
So how do we get from private investigator to hairstylist?
Oh my gosh. It was just one of those things that came naturally. It's crazy. I found a photo that my mom had, and it's me playing with my grandfather's hair, adding bows to his hair. And then I guess, the fascination with hair, it started really like when I was 5 years old, 4 years old. And then I just like vaguely remember just loving to take lotion and just rubbing it all over. I had, this sounds crazy, an aunt with hairy legs. And I would just, slather lotion on her legs and just, my little hands would just like create all like little patterns on her with the hair on her legs. It was like very soft, fine hair, but I just remember like just taking my hands and just creating these patterns on her legs with lotion. And, I just didn't realize it until my older age that I was always fascinated with hair. So I believe that was just something that just, naturally developed. And when I was in high school, we had a vocational program for hairstylists. So I was able to graduate high school with my cosmetologist license. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah. So it was just that thing that just over time, just wanted to create hairstyles that I looked in magazines, and I was like, oh, I like that. And I would create it on myself and my friends. And it just kind of like naturally happened.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So did you work in salons and stuff?
Yeah. So when I graduated high school, I went off to college for a short amount of time. I didn't finish, but within that year I was there, my freshman year, I turned my dorm into a salon. Yeah. And I was taking clients. And of course, I was going to my classes and everything. And there was like certain ones I would miss. Like, I'm not interested in that. But I will always go to my anatomy and physiology class. Love science. So I would just like build my clientele like around my schedule. And before I knew it, I had like a lot of the students would come to me. And also their mother will love their hair so much. They're like, I want to go to this girl too. And so before you knew it, I had like my girlfriend's mother is coming to me. And before I knew it, I just called my mom, my parents, and I was like, look, I don't want to waste any money. I think it's time for me to go ahead and work in a salon. Only, for later for me to, pick up more courses for college. But at that time, when I graduated, went off to college, and it just kicked off, and then left and went to work in a salon. And that was like around 1998 when I worked in my first salon.
That's awesome. When you said you had, you came out of high school with your cosmetology license and then you went to college, I was just like, what for? But I know it's in the blood in America to go off to college. Yeah. So, I mean, but awesome, because it helped you really figure out what you wanted to do. I mean, you're turning your dorm into a salon, then it's kind of obvious what direction you want to go in.
Yeah, my parents, they were the ones that were like, oh my gosh, no. Okay, we understand you have your license. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to work at the salon. Like, there's always that one salon in the neighborhood or in town that you just look at like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to work there. Or, you can see yourself being a part of that team. And I was ready, but my parents were like, look, you're going to work all of your life. Why go in and work right now? Go to school. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And before I knew it, my focus was still on what I wanted to do. And I had the credentials. I had the certificate for me to, I was certified cosmetologist. So it wasn't just like a braider or a hairstylist or anything like that. It was the full on. If I wanted to be an esthetician, I could. If I wanted to do nails, I could. So just whatever I wanted to do in the beauty industry, I could go for it. So I, pleased my parents and did it for 1 year. And I was like, okay, let's just, move on and step into what I really want to do and desire to do.
Yeah. And I mean, there must have been a large part of you that didn't really feel like it was work either.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Absolutely not. It was creating.
You're like, but this is fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it was creating. Absolutely.
So where was all this happening? Where did you grow up and go to college, and where was the first salon that you worked in?
I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I went to University of North Texas. And, from there, when I left UNT, there was a salon in Arlington, Texas. It was called London. I fell in love with that place because the lady that did my hair for prom, I just thought she was just the most amazing hairstylist. Her name was Nicole. Never forget it. And she was just so pretty to me. And she just I just loved her. And she's just such a great mother. And I felt like she just had it, all. And then also to the owner of the salon, it's a husband and wife. So it was a salon on one side for hairstyling for women, the women's part. And then there was a barber shop on the other side. So there was a glass partition in the middle. So the hairstylists were on the one side and then the barbers were on the other.
That's cool.
And I would sit there and just watch both sides work. When I was in high school, while I was getting my training and everything to go to state board and all of that. So I remember I was like, you know what? I want to work here when I, get my license. I'll never forget it. So I went there. I spoke to the salon owner and I was like, hey, I want to be a part of your team. She's like, okay, great. You do? All righty. Get your model. She grabbed me a model from like off the street and she gave me everything that I needed to do. And she's like, go for it. And at that point, I was like nervous. I was like, okay, let's go for it. And she put me to the test right on the spot. And she was like, okay, great. You got a job. Come on. You start tomorrow. And from that point, from working at that salon, it just opened my eyes to so much from what beauty school taught me, because I was in the room, pretty much the youngest in the room of all of these veterans that were like master barbers and hairstylists and all of this other stuff. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I was in Wonderland just learning as much as I could. Before I knew it, I just got stronger and more confident in my work with, having those people that were in my life as mentors.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love how she just kind of threw you into it.
Yeah, she's it's like, amazing. Here, swim. I'm like, okay, oh gosh, how deep is this water?
It's one way to figure out if someone really wants to work in the salon. It's just like, yeah, all right, let's do it then. Come on, let's go. That's very cool. Yeah. So where does your path lead? Like how do you end up getting into film and television?
Really, it kind of reached out and grabbed me. It fell into my lap. It's a very unique story. I'm sure it's a lot of people in the industry who has this story. Like I said, being raised in Dallas and now I'm working in a salon. It's been a couple of years, and I built relationships with photographers and makeup artists and other hairstylists. And when we were meeting these different artists in the area, one makeup artist had the opportunity to work on a movie. It was an independent film in Austin, Texas, called Kings of the Evening. And she got a call from a producer because she was a friend of hers, and he asked her to do like hair and makeup. And so she reached out to me and she's like, hey, so I have this movie. Would you like to do it? It has like Lynn Whitfield, Tyson Beckford, Glenn Turman, like all of these, like, it's like a great, like, all-star Black cast. And Bruce McGill was in it. It was just a lot of great people. And so she asked me if I would like to do the movie with her. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. From there, I remember, I was like, so when does it start? Now, mind you, she called me like on a Monday. She's like, oh, we have to be in Austin on Saturday to load in the trailer. Now, mind you, when I got the call, I had a very huge clientele. So, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity. So I just took like all of my clients that were on the books and spread them out amongst all of the hairstylists that were in the salon. And I was like, hey, can you please do this? I told my clients, I'm like, I'll see you in a month and a half. I have to go away. And they're like, what? I'm like, it's okay. I'll be back. So to make a long story short, I crammed in all the information that I could. It was during the Great Depression. The movie was set during the Great Depression. And it was, like I said, a predominantly Black cast. And what I did was I took off a day, went to the library, and looked up everything that I could about that era, what everyone looked like, and all of that stuff. So I just researched all day long. And I realized that in the past I had went to a course at Dudley University, which is in North Carolina, and one of the courses was Marcel ironing. Now, mind you, I was in the salon. So I learned this amazing technique that none of my clients wanted. They were like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. But I mean, who's walking around in 2008, 2009 with Marcel waves, you know? And it was not the thing, okay? And I was like, oh my gosh, but it's like, I was so fascinated and I loved it, but no one wanted it. So fast forward to the movie, it was that, you know, during this time, and all of these hairstyles called for that technique that I learned. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm able to, you know, to do this stuff on this movie. So, you know, just moving forward, like on that, that's when the introduction of the film world, you know, I was introduced to the film world at that time. And I didn't think that it was anything that I could touch, I could reach. You know, in my mind, I was a hairstylist in the salon that had dreams of owning her own salon, being an educator, coming up with some products and doing XYZ, which still may be on the horizon for me. But at that moment, you know, the film industry was not, I didn't think it was anything that I could reach, I could touch.
No, it's funny. And I don't know if a lot of people just don't even consider it as an option, I don't think. I mean, maybe more so now because it's a little bit more, the behind the scenes is a little more open than what it used to be. But yeah, I mean, and it sounds like, I mean, this opportunity came your way and you just grabbed it. Like the fact that you had to move all your clients, like some people would have just been like, that's too much trouble. I can't be bothered with that. I just don't worry about it. And then your first film, not only like it's your first job in the film industry ever, but it's a period piece.
It's a period
piece. That's another challenge on top of everything else.
God.
So, but you know, you took the right steps going and you're doing your research, and it's awesome.
And it worked. And it's actually, to me, like one of the most beautiful movies that I've done, to be my very first one.
That's so cool.
And I remember I never touched a wig, and the producers and directors like, we hate wigs. We don't want wigs. We want it to be real. We want XYZ. I was like, okay, cool. And I'll never forget it. The young lady that was the lead actress, she was part Brazilian and African American. So she had very, 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 very tight, like coily, curly hair. And I was like, okay, now we have to press this out, do thermal ironing on, and create this look that looks true and authentic. And when I tell you, oh my gosh, it was to me just absolutely beautiful. And thankfully she was a trooper. I was able to, you know, implement, you know, my experience from the salon to attach it to what I learned in that class, to put it together and create this character for film. And that read so beautiful. And I was just like, wow, just I couldn't believe it. So I kind of like hit the ground running. And not only was I the hairstylist, I was the department head, the key, and the third. I did everyone.
You were it, baby.
Yeah, I was in it. I didn't know anything about help. I was like, oh, okay. I have who to do? Okay, no problem. I got it. Oh yeah, that's probably one of the hardest. Awesome. Probably one of the hardest project that I've ever worked on, but the most rewarding.
Yeah, and it sounds like you look back on it fondly, so that's awesome. And proud of your work still. I mean, I know a lot of people who their first job, they're like, oh my God, don't look at it. So that's really cool.
Yes.
That's awesome. So the makeup artist who brought you on to that, had she done a lot of stuff before, or was it quite new to her as well?
That was new to her as well. Bridget, you know, bless her. She's an amazing makeup artist, you know, but more so print and fashion. You know, she's like print and fashion world. So when we're both in it, we were like, you know, the blind leading the blind. And that was her first, you know, movie as well. She didn't pursue the industry afterwards. She was like, okay, no, leave me to the freelance world. She was like, that's great and everything.
Yeah. She's like, there is no glamour in that.
No. Oh, no. Oh, no. She's like, this is not my thing. However, just leave me in the fashion world. I'm okay. So, and for me, I was like, oh my gosh. Did you see
it's
this?
good that she worked it out.
Oh yeah, she worked it out. She's amazing. Has a makeup studio. She's doing well in Dallas. So, kudos to her. And I'm like very thankful for her asking me to do this, because honestly, I don't know if I would be in this industry, without that call from her and the lead actress, Lynn Whitfield, seeing the ambition in me and the talent in me. And she was like, you know what? I'm taking you on as my personal for my next movie. And there it goes.
Oh, that's so cool. I was going to ask you, how does it progress from there? Like when and how do you get your next job? So that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's, exactly what happened. The lead actress, she was just impressed, and she's seen a haircut that I did for a friend on the movie. And it was a bob, that's when Rihanna had came out with Umbrella. That was the song of the year, Umbrella. And Rihanna was rocking this really nice bob. And my friend wanted it. And she was like, I'm going to perform. So can you do this haircut for me? And did it. And everybody loved it. And Lynn was like, you know what? You can really cut. Do you want to be with me on my next movie? I'm like, sure. Great, I will. That time I was non-union, and the project that I went to work with her on was a non-union project. Well, no, it was a union project, but I was non-union. So I got taken advantage of a little bit on that end. However, it was the best development for me. So I don't look at it as, being taken advantage of. It's like we learn as we go. And I was able to meet a lot of people from LA that were a part of 706 on that project. And it was, a little bit tough one, because sometimes people are not, that kind to people that are not in a union yet. And, but as a reminder, we all have to start from somewhere. And with that being said, is that I was open to learn and ask questions. I went in with no ego. It was just like that moment of, I knew that it was an opportunity that God had presented and opened the door for. And I just was like, you know what, let's go with it, because don't worry about what you're making. The money will come later in life. The experience is more than anything, more than money can buy. Yeah.
And I mean, it was like your second job?
Yeah, it was my second. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
Baby steps.
Exactly. It was totally okay.
And you haven't really looked back, have you?
Have not looked back. I remember shortly after that, because I was like, oh, wow, now I bit the forbidden fruit, I bit the fruit, and I was like, oh, gosh, this is great. And I ended that project and went back home to Dallas. And at that moment, I realized that there was an area with my skills that I wasn't strong in, which was working with European hair, Caucasian hair. Mm-hmm. And so when I ended that project, it was a mission for me to conquer and learn and be super confident in different textures of hair. So when I went back home, I still worked in a salon. This was all within a year. Went back to the salon because I needed to make money to sustain my life, my livelihood. But I went to work at Tony & Guy. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, I went to work for Tony & Guy within a year. And now, mind you, when I was in the salon before stepping into the film world, I took some cutting courses at Tony & Guy and loved it. And some coloring courses, loved it. But more so, I loved the cutting aspect of it. However, when I took the skill that I learned back to the salon, none of my clients wanted to cut their hair. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all this skill to do all of this stuff and no one wants to cut their hair. So fast forward, when I went to work with Lynn as a personal, finished that movie up for the movie Mama I Want to Sing, I left, and oh gosh, now that's some parts of that movie that I cringe at.
We've all got them. Don't worry.
I was like a couple of scenes, and it's like where I learned how to use hairspray, because I never used hairspray in a salon. So it was like, oh, this is aerogel. This is what this does. And I'm like, oh my gosh, our hair is stiff as a board. What did I just do? It's so stiff. Oh God, this is not great. But anyway, going back to when I went back home and I worked in the salon, like I said, to make money to sustain my livelihood, I decided to go full on and work with Tony and Guy. And that's where I developed the strength and also to be confident in working with more straighter hair, from round brushing to cutting to all of this stuff, product knowledge and all of that. Being there at that salon, it really, really helped develop my skills.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Your clientele from your salon must have been, how did they take changing direction, leaving the salon? They're like, don't go.
Yeah. They were really supportive, but then also it was that thing of, so when are you coming back? Will you, will we see you this weekend? And so what was happening for me, the transition out of the salon into going 100% to the film world, is that I moved from Dallas to Louisiana. And at that time, Louisiana, New Orleans, and Shreveport were pretty hot at the moment for like doing a lot of film and television. And I moved there to work on a movie, which was my first big movie for my career. It was a spoof. It was a spoof called Disaster Movie. And so oh my gosh. And I was under the supervision of Gary Perticone, the 706, and Roxanne Ferguson, bless her soul, she's not here anymore. And I was the third on the show. And that's when my eyes were like totally open to because they built, sound stages out there in some of the warehouses. And to me, that was huge. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at a studio.
Yeah.
I was working with, and they had like the world of wigs, because of course, when you're doing a spoof, it's all a lot of, we're recreating these looks for like Iron Man and Juno and all of these other different movies that were happening at the time. And the land of creativity was just like burst open. And I was like, oh my God, I like this. Now, in the meantime, with me being on the sister state of Texas and you have Louisiana, on the weekends, I was able to go home and take care of a few clients. Well, guess who?
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. You see where this story is going, right? Someone is very exhausted now.
Yeah.
Super exhausted.
So you'd made like a clean break, like leaving, like, okay, I'm leaving town. And then you're like, I was going back in the weekends. Yeah. It's like, no.
Right. Why would I do like a 2.5 hour drive back to Dallas, take care of some people, drive back home, and then, kick it off. So at that moment, but, that's what happens when you're in your 20s. You got a little bit of, energy to do that. It didn't last for long. Yeah. And so I had to write a letter and email, and I did like a special event for my clients of handing them off to other people and just told them I thank you. But I had to make a choice. It's because, I had to make a choice. And at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm going to step out on faith and take this film and television journey and say goodbye to the salon world. Because at that time, I was in a salon for 10, 11 years. So there was a change and something needed to happen. Yeah. And so it evolved into this.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a scary stage because it's just like you're going from a really consistent, steady job in the salon to something that you're just like, okay, I know I've got this film job from this date to this date, but then what happens after that? And you just are always thinking, I need something to be able to fall back onto. So it's completely understandable to kind of want to keep your hand over with those clients as well. But also letting them go kind of forces you into, okay, well, I'm going to have to make this film thing work and I'm going to have to hustle and get another job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And, I'm just super thankful to work with people that were looking for help and become a word of mouth to other department heads and keys in the industry that were looking for a good third or good day players. Yeah. And, I just wanted to do my best And I did, and, very, quietly. And before you know it, one thing led to the next. And, working strong as a third, and then being promoted to being a key, and learning, as much as I could from amazing department heads and leaders. And, they became my mentors. And, that just, prepared me for the department head world. So I was just very, very thankful. It's kind of like,
I mean, it's good to take that route of kind of just making your way up the ladder. Even though your first job, it was just you and you were doing it all. Obviously, the size of the project, it was okay to do that. But the bigger the project, I mean, could you imagine if you'd been thrown onto something as big as The Matrix when you didn't have all that experience behind you? Like, you'd be like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah. See, okay, exactly. Because the thing is like, okay, let's take that picture that you just painted, right? From like the first project that I did.
I mean, it's an insane picture. But...
Yeah, it is insane. But, it's like you have to paint it because some people don't know, and they think like, oh, I could do hair and I could do this. And there's like, oh no, there's a thing called scheduling. There's a thing called time. There's a thing called, so it's like all of those things, because of course on that independent, it was tough because everyone is like in a period look, all of that. And it took time to where there were so many rules that were broken. Like, I'm staying in the same hotel with my cast, and I'm like, oh, okay, on Sunday or Saturday, come over here, let me prep your hair. I'm working every day, doing something every day, right? Just to get the look and everything done.
Right.
But it's not, you couldn't take a seasoned person that knows how it goes and accept that. But when you have someone that's like, okay, let's just get it done, because you're just, the momentum is running, and if you see it and this and the other, and you just don't know the proper protocols, per se. And production, they're not looking at it like that. They're like, we're just going to guerrilla style do this, for the crew and cast and all this other stuff. But to take that, and it's just like in the Matrix world, absolutely not. I'm like, oh, what's a wig? What's a, I have a double? What is a double? Oh, okay. This person has, oh my gosh. Could you imagine? I could not imagine. I couldn't imagine.
No, I mean, I doubt it would have, why would somebody hand over a job that scale to someone who has no experience?
Exactly,
but
yeah.
It's just... Or anything. It's worth just thinking about. Like, it is good to just take those steps that are necessary to get the experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, let's chat a little bit about some of the projects that you've done since your beginnings. And I want to know a couple of favorites that you've had and why.
Okay, got it. I got a couple of favorites. Oh my gosh, I worked on quite a few. Oh gosh, good ones. Goodness. I can say I start with a fun one. It was it was a TLC movie. Remember the girl group TLC?
Of course.
Okay, so VH1 did a biopic about their life. And creating TLC had amazing hairstyles, fashion, like wardrobes, makeup, all of that. Okay. So I was hired as a department head for that movie. And when I tell you, it was so fun and so creative, and just having a rock star team, I would say that was one of a very exhausting project. However, you didn't feel exhausted because the momentum was pumping because of the music and the girls, getting into place. And it was really, really, really fun. And I love the look of the girls, after we finished it, the girls and guys just recreating all of those looks. I loved it. And then we have Bad Boys. I loved working on Bad Boys. That was another project. Oh my gosh. I had that trailer, when I tell you, to this day, that was one of the best trailers that I've ever worked in. And we had the harmony was just amazing. Will Smith, his barber Pierce, oh my gosh, Mikey Tracy, Victor, my other barber. We had just a team, and we were just creating all of these, looks and the haircuts and the music. Oh my gosh. If my trailer had a soundtrack, I think we would have a Grammy.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. But, also too, just, once again, stepping in like for creating the games and, the actors, like for their just taking them in different looks. I loved working on Bad Boys. And of course, Mare of Easttown was actually a good one. It took me, what can I say? I really like creating real characters, people that feel real.
Yeah.
That was an amazing project to do that, because getting a little bit better with, showing things on Instagram and all of that social media for the transformations that were done. But there were so many transformations that you wouldn't even know. Like one of the young ladies, her name is Ruby, and her character was Jessica, and she's a brunette, but we took her to like more of a golden tone, but to look like her mother, her probably was an aspiring hairstylist, and it goes through that red orange phase with growth, would grow out. So it was making her look like she almost kind of had like a home done color job, but because her mom's a hairstylist and tried like all these different things on her hair, so transforming her from there. And Gari, that plays Siobhan. When I met her, her hair was down her back, maybe a level 7, and I cut all her hair off and shaved the sides and created that asymmetrical undercut bob for her, which took her to a total different place for any of her characters, for any of her shows. But it was like an amazing, great transformation for her. And it was super fun. Even when I met Evan's hair was down his back. And to give him a boyish look, boyish like haircut look and all of this for his character. So it was so many like cool, different, things that we did. Jean Smart, she just left from Beauty World from being on Watchmen and getting the wigs made for a lot of the people. It was just, amazing, because she wanted to look like that grandmother that's at home, old Irish roots, and and want to look, just naturally undone. Like, okay, maybe she puts little curls in her hair on her church day, so you'll see her with the little tighter rolls and the curls and the little bangs when she tried to spruce it up for herself for her church days and all of that. So it was great. And then, working with Ivana, she's amazing. And she, built out that amazing, wig for Kate. It was, I had a great rock star team for that project.
Yeah, it would have been nice to watch Ivana work, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ivana, she's amazing at what she does. And fast forward to, Matrix, that was just like, pinch me, am I dreaming? And what just happened? Wow, to get a phone call from Flora, well, actually an email from Flora, and from Flora Moody. And, I was referred to her from Ivana because we met on Mare of Easttown. So, getting that call to be a part of her team was, a true blessing. I was like, oh my gosh, because that was my first time working abroad.
Yeah, where did you guys go?
We were in Berlin, in Germany.
Amazing.
Yeah. Cool. So that was my first time working abroad. And then Flora gave me the assignment of making the wig for Niobe. And I was like, what? I'm making the wig for her. And I was like, well, we can call a couple of, wig makers I know and do amazing. She's like, no, you can do it. I was like, oh, okay, I can do it. And it turned out beautiful, with the help of Andrew and Kashaya Cash. So that was an amazing, amazing thing. And it, of course, shot during the COVID, lockdown and all of that. While the states were locked down, we were working. So it was a fortunate time. It was hard.
Did it stop? Like they started shooting and then did they go into lockdown and then start back up again? Or
Yeah. So they shot a portion in, of course, in San Francisco. And Flora was out there. I wasn't a part of that team. It was when they went back in. That's when I was a part of her team. Yeah, so they shot, I think it was like a couple of weeks or something. I don't know. At the time they were in San Francisco. But yeah, they did shut down because of COVID. And then came back.
That's very cool. I'm yet to see the film, but I think we're going to go see it this week. So looking forward to it. I mean, it's on pause for a long time. So I almost feel like I need to watch the other films maybe.
Oh, you have to
get myself back into the Matrix.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I watched them over and over before I left. I was like, okay, sit down and watch The Matrix. All right, does it make sense to you, Shanika? Okay, watch it again, And then while I was there, like before it went to the theaters, I watched all of them over again just to watch the Matrix Resurrections. I'm just, super proud of like how it looks. Flora, she designed some amazing looks, and I, very, very happy what came across, the screen. Amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, I look forward to seeing it. I mean, I've seen images and stuff from it, so it looks cool. Yeah. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to see it. And it must have been fun working on something with so much action.
Oh my gosh, it was, because I would say that one of my first like action-ish type of movies was, Bad Boys. I've done other movies that, have fighting and explosions and all this other stuff. But, for that one, it was just like so surreal, like just looking at all of them. It was just a lot of good stuff. I was actually very impressed and just still in awe. It's almost every time like when I do a great project, I just walk in there like the newest kid on the block. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Wow, am I really a part of this? Oh gosh, they asked me. Oh, I'm always amazed.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you don't want to lose that. I think once you stop feeling like that, it's like you're over it.
You're over it. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. So over it.
So that's awesome. And you also worked on Atlanta.
Yes, Atlanta. Atlanta is my heart. That's one of my favorite projects to be a part of. If Atlanta ends and starts back in another 30 years, I'll be like, I'll do it on my cane, I got you. I'll do it. No, but I love Atlanta. The cast, oh my gosh, working with Donald, working with Zossie, Brian, Tyree Henry. I'm actually working with him right now on a project. Lakeith, oh my gosh, I love them dearly so much as people, but also too about the true artists that they are. And it's funny because I've been with the show Atlanta since the pilot. So in my mind, when I accepted it and, thankful to the producer that hired me. Thanks, Alex Orr. We've been, done so much stuff together from Independence to all of this. But to make a long story short, when I got the script, I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking that it's about like Atlanta. I live in Atlanta. And as I got deeper into the scripts, I was like, oh no, these are stories within a show. Oh, there's not really like true continuity to it. It's, we create our thing for each episode. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then the topics that they spoke about. And then I remember like for me, just once again, creating that characters, I said, I want them to feel real, not overdone.
Yeah.
Like perfect example in the first season, Zazie wakes up, she wakes up, she's getting ready for work. She takes off her head wrap, and she has Bantu knots underneath the head wrap, right? So this is a part of something like during that time, you didn't see that on too many shows at all. Yeah. But that was something that stood out because people were like, man, this is so real, because a lot of, girls that have like the super curly hair, they'll twist it up, braid it up, take it out, to create these, so they can have like a cute look with their natural texture. And they was like, this is so real. Yeah. She just had a night with her, her guy. She gets up like whatever, takes off this thing and starts unraveling her Bantu knot. And so with that show, I wanted it to feel just like real to each person. And as you grow with them from season to season to season. So it was, that's definitely one of my heartbeats of my show. You know what? Now, the soundtrack to that trailer is amazing too. We have some good music on that trailer. So I don't know. I might have to put competition between Bad Boys and Atlanta for having one of the best soundtracks.
That's awesome.
But
I was going to say, I mean, it's nice that you were allowed to create those looks that were real, because I feel like there's times where, even with period stuff, like when you are doing things and you have, like, as you say, a woman waking up in the morning and she would have rollers in her hair, or she would have this or that going on, and you would present that to the director and they'd be like, oh yeah, no, that doesn't look cute.
I'm like, but no, but let's
so then they ask you to come up with something else, and it's just like, but that's not how it would have been. Okay, fine, we'll keep it Hollywood, whatever. So it is nice to get on those jobs where trying to keep it real is encouraged. Because it feels good. I mean, it's always nice to do the glamorous, not a hair out of place look, but I don't know, I get more satisfaction out of getting real.
Me too. I realize like that's fun. My favorite as well. That's my favorite. Like, I'm like, give me a project any day that, her creating like these real characters. Like, oh my gosh, I like it. I love it. I just absolutely love it. Even if you're taking someone that's making them look something totally different, but it's still a realistic character. I just love it. Absolutely.
That's fun. Now, out of all your projects, what would you say would have been maybe the most challenging?
The most challenging one, I would say, like, I think I spoke about it earlier. It was probably like my first one, but it was very gratifying, because of not, knowing everything and just, just going. And it just not knowing, just being very naive to everything. But I look back on, I was like, oh my gosh, that was challenging. And then currently I'm on a project that, we're still filming it right now. But it's, as you know, this was past, present, and future, and, just, going back. And sometimes it can be, challenging when you're switching over directors and styles and all of that. So, being that person to make sure that there's balance between all of the worlds.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have all of that information in your head, don't you?
Yeah.
You're the go-to person for...
Absolutely, for it all. And it could have its challenging moments for the switches and just being like, okay, I hear you. All right. And here we go. And then it's like, then all of a sudden this one little person comes in and it's like, no. And then everything blows up and it's like, okay, let's go back from ground zero. So I would say like, it feels like a few little challenges now. However, it's definitely building to work out. And it's not more so of like challenges for my department. It's more so challenging for time and expectations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's, that. And, between those two, and maybe when we end this podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention that one. I'll think about a project that was like, really put me on my butt. And
no, if it did really put you on your butt, you may have blocked it out because it was a traumatic experience. So you've just forgotten about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think every project brings its challenges, but and they're all very, very different, as you say. So, and most of the time you come out the other end being grateful for those challenges because they've helped you grow. So
yeah, absolutely. Definitely
that's
does.
Awesome.
Definitely does.
So now that you are doing more department heading and designing, how do you feel you kind of got to that point of just knowing how to do it? Because I mean, it's not like you kind of go to school to learn how to be a department head. I mean, there's just not very much out there. I guess it is just experience, right? I mean, just for those who are maybe in a third position at the moment and wanting to move up to key and then key to department head, I guess what kind of insight and advice and stuff could you give to somebody in that position, how to learn?
Okay, so actually you just, pretty much broke it down to, what it takes, to be a good department head. My thing is that I always tell someone is that you have to be a great day player in order to be a great third. Be an amazing third to be an outstanding key. And once you're in that key position, be the best key that you can possibly be, because a key has the hat of like a department head as well. but they just don't have to deal with all of the higher ups and the questions and the answers and like all of this other stuff and the designing part and aspect of it. So in that position, that, stay there for, a minute and soak up as much information, as possible, because like you said, this is not like in textbooks, like this is what you do and this is how it goes. Because you could read it. If it was in a textbook, you could read it. And then once you had to apply that knowledge, it's something totally different. So it's, that hands-on experience so far as balancing personalities, balancing, your work ethic, your timing, speed, the listening skills, all of this stuff that develops, in order to be like the great leader for the whole, the team. So with that being said, it's just for me, when I was in those positions, I looked, I learned from others' strengths, weaknesses, good habits, bad habits, all of those things. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay. Or, okay, let me, I'll pick up on this, and learning, from people and not having an ego helped develop each stage for me for when I was a day player to a third to a key, and now department heading. And I've been department heading for some years, and it's in developing those like great relationships with my producers and stuff. And it's not just like, oh yeah, we had cocktails this evening and did this and the other. It's not that. It's about the work ethic. What do you do to to lead your team, and what do you do to help them develop to be the best day player third key, to be in the position that we're in. To be honest with you, I don't want to be 100 years old and saying I'm department heading this project. There's a time where you have to, pass it on. Trust whoever you do have under you to be like, oh, okay, because you can't do all the projects that's out there. You can't. No. You can get calls. You can get a call to do 5 projects, but you can only do 1, or you might not be able to do 1 because you're attached to something else. So it's just like, thinking about those that are under us, to develop them to be the best that they can. Take courses, talk to the veterans in the industry. There are so many new people in the industry that kind of like know it all to where they know nothing at all. If you can have the skill, but there's always different ways to do something. So just taking the opportunity in interviewing, I will always just tell the people that are like day players, thirds, and keys to ask questions. Look, don't be afraid. Don't be, timid around it or feel weird because you feel like you don't know something and you're working with these people. Because sometimes people can make you look, feel a certain way. And if they do, so be it. You want to learn.
Yeah. And it's always, I think, I'm always like that as well. It's just like, guys, if you don't know anything, ask. I'm going to do the same thing. If I don't know how to do something, I'm going to ask you guys, because it's better to just put yourself out there and ask the question. Like, I don't know how to do this. Like, what do you think the best way is to get this done? Then sometimes fumbling your way through it, or just not even doing it. And then coming up against that conversation of like, what happened? Oh, I didn't know how to do it. Oh, why didn't you ask?
Why didn't you ask? Yeah.
Just ask.
Okay.
That's a way more, uncomfortable conversation than just asking in the first place.
Absolutely.
The conversation of why didn't you just ask is far worse than just asking. So
it is. It absolutely is.
I totally agree. So what do you look for in your team members when you're putting your crew together?
I look for people that have like a good diverse hand. I like the diversity, good listeners. Of course, I check out their skill set etiquette, definitely, and personality. And I can work with a good team that are good listeners. Checking out, everybody doesn't have to have the same personality, but you also have to know like they have a good personality that can fit with my cast. And, like, okay, this person is great with this one. This one is good with this one. Okay, look at the skills, this and the other. So these are, big things that I look for. And then also too, team players, because a lot of times when we're doing projects, everything is not always just sweet as pie. What should I say? So you look for that team that knows how to get in there and go. Let's run with it, Yeah. I tend not to gravitate to like, complainers. If we're complaining too much, I'm like, okay, come on. We can't move forward by complaining. We just have to, figure it out. Let's go.
Misery loves company.
Yeah. I'm like, no Eeyores on the team. Please, no. No, take your umbrella in the rain. Please go to the corner. Please.
Oh my God.
Oh no, we can't have it. No.
Yeah.
We have to do too much for that. I can't. I'm like, okay, I can't be a therapist right now. But we do, uplift one another for the most part. That's, the key things that I do look in for my team. And just a big part of it is, I can't say it more, like the more I'm telling you, is just like a lot of, like I said, the skill set and good listening skills.
Yeah.
And then also
the work.
It's
important.
Yeah. And the work ethic. And then also too, I love a genuine team, an honest team. So it's okay. You can tell me something that you might think that I don't want to hear, but it's okay. I come as an open book, because at the end of the day, my journey into this industry was not like a lot of other people's story, right? So it's like developed as I went, but then also to, search deeper and took, different courses to develop my, my strengths for where I am now. So with my team, it's just like, you're only strong as your team. I look for those things in them because, that's where our strength comes from. And then it's not all about me. It's not all about me. It's not all about the other person. It's about us. What do we do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I mean, yeah, it is a team effort. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I'd rather work with, hairstylists in the industry. They got that vision and want to do it. And, their skill set might not be as strong as some great hairdressers with horrible attitudes. I just can't. It hurts me. I'm like, oh gosh, you're wonderful, but oh my gosh, you're gonna tear us down. No.
Yeah. No. Well, it is that thing. It's just like if your skills aren't quite up there, it's just like that you can work on those. But if someone's attitude is just rotten, it's just like, oh, I don't know. I can't teach you how to be.
Yeah. Can't teach you that.
How to be more positive.
Exactly.
That's got to come from within.
Like, let's get her some tea. You need some chamomile tea? Tea time. Oh gosh.
So you've done quite a few different projects.
Yes.
What kind of project have you not worked on that you would like to?
You know what? I would like to work on like some type of, whimsical, like fairy tale-ish type of
like a fantasy type?
Very, very, yes, fantasy. That will be fun. And yes, so that's something that I have not worked on. Been tapping into more like, your sci-fi. I love dramas. I love dramas. Mystery movies. That's like some of like my favorite, because not only like the scripts are so engaging, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just love it. But definitely doing like a fantasy, I would love to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's so creative, especially like if you're having the opportunity to create like a species or a race or like different people from different planets or like whatever it is that's coming up with their own unique looks and stuff. So yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be amazing.
I hope you get the opportunity.
Me too. I
think you would grab it and run with it.
Listen, I will. And one thing is, I think if that definitely comes my way, I need prep time. So if it comes like, oh yeah, here you go, we have something for you. Like, so can I have at least a good couple of months, not 2 months. I mean like 6+ months to create this.
I know, honestly, the lack of prep time in this industry is insane.
I'm like, what happened?
I'm just like, what?
It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
Actually, I run. If I ask for, if somebody asks me and I'm like, okay, when does it start? Okay, what does it call for? Oh no. Like you can sense that it's going to be, very demanding, and, you have to like prepare yourself for any type of like anxiety. And that's what I don't do. So I was just like, I'm just going to, step away for a moment and just be honest about prep and what it is that they want, because it can become very stressful and, wear you down. And I don't want to stress out myself or my team at all.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong in saying this, but just interviewing people from around the world, I do feel like in some other countries, they are given more prep time?
You know what?
Like substantially more prep time.
Yeah.
When it comes to some type of, whether it's fantasy or a period, there just seems to be the respect there to give them that time that they need to get it where it needs to be. And I don't quite know what's happened here, that everything is constantly so rushed.
I think it's greed.
It's interesting.
I'll say it. You know, whoever's listening to the other end, they're like, whatever, Shanika, you're not working ever again. No, but, you know, I think, it's just, it's like a little bit of a greed. But maybe now people have to speak up for it. If you don't speak up for it in the prep time, then of course they'll be like, oh, I didn't know you need that much time. So I think that instead of saying, yeah, sure, we can do it, to be like, well, if you really want this done and done properly, X, Y, Z, it's going to take this many tests to get there, because not all the time you're going to create something and it's going to be a hit. It's not going to be a hit. It may take 2 or 3 times for it to be like everybody loves it, from the cast to the directors to producers. So many people that have their hands into, these looks. So I just feel like once the department head, the designer is hired, just be like, oh, okay, great, we can do this. It's a demand. Like all of our wig makers are pretty much, their books are filled with making wigs for people. So therefore, if, you call them like, oh yeah, I want to create this crazy black, white, red, purple wig, with so many textures and this and the other, and blend it a certain way. And then you reach out to all your go-to wig makers that are like booked. So it's like, okay, finally we found somebody, but it's going to take 8 weeks, 12 weeks or whatever to build this out. But they're like, oh yeah, but the project, we're going to start shooting it in 5 weeks. Well, what can you do? So it's just like, and then that takes a lot of time for thinking of the alternate to what you would love to do. So we're like compromising our art a little bit because of time demands, or should I say hiring at the last minute, or building these things that are like very demanding. So I think it's just like a big discussion that needs to come to the table.
They managed to hire their costume designers quite early on.
Oh, yeah.
It surprises me that they're not thinking at that point to look at hair and makeup. It seems to be like the month before when they start shooting, it's like, oh, we better get a hair person or a makeup artist. We better get our hair and makeup team together. And sometimes, I mean, that's completely fine. If it's just a contemporary, straightforward look, then great. And I mean, also sometimes, I've been up against it because the casting has been so delayed and so slow. So it's just like, well, you can't even do anything until you've actually got a cast member to kind of start having those conversations and working out what direction you're going to go in the first place. So even if you were hired 2 months out, but they don't have cast, then it's kind of like, well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we're like kind of going through that now. So, but I think it's after this break. Like, I think we're going to be on a better road right now. Hopefully, prayerfully, we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You go from one show that it's smooth sailing and everything's sorted out to the next one that's absolute insanity, and you're like, oh my God, does anybody know what they're doing? This is a crazy ride. I'm just going to hold on and go with it. And, it doesn't last forever. So the next one may be a little calmer.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you are prepping for something that you need to do a bit of research on, what are some of your favorite sources of research?
I go to, of course, like the internet, number one. I'm a lover of the library. I do love, I've been going to the flea market and to like the antique stores and collecting like the old time magazines and everything. So I can have plenty of research for looks.
Okay.
And I've been buying like old yearbooks and stuff from like different cities and states wherever I go to in different countries. I love that. I've also like for research, whenever I read a script, I kind of like dive in and just wrap my brain around what it is what it needs. And I go I log and I go into looking at like each town, each city. And the internet has definitely been my, friend for that. I'm able to
Mm.
pull a lot of images. And then once I find out different stuff, I narrow it down to like a specific state. Like, perfect example, Mare of East town.
Mm.
I was able to sit back and look up images of this area. It's a city called Media, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Philly has its different looks, but I was able just to go dive deeper into the hometowns. And then sometimes if I get the opportunity, I just like to go around and talk to different people's families.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that thing from when I was a child being an investigator, it pops up.
Yeah.
It's never left, Jamie. It's never left. That little girl is still here. She's going to find out.
That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, it definitely putting your research mind into action and gathering all the facts.
All the facts, absolutely. So I think that's why I love dramas and stuff like that, because I you can dig deeper in that. When you go into like avant-garde stuff, then that's cool, to look up like hair shows and all of this stuff. Pinterest, Pinterest is, we love Pinterest to pull images, but that's the big part of my research.
Yeah, that's very cool. Another thing that I noticed it's been a while since I've been to the flea market, just with the whole COVID situation, but the last time I went to the Long Beach one, there was one guy who, I don't know where he got this from, it was kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit, like freaked me out, because it was just families' photo albums and families' photos, and it's just like, where do they get this stuff from? But of course, I mean, there's going to be an end of a line for stuff like that at some point with people's families, but looking through these photo albums and actually, that people have taken the time to write the date and stuff like that, and it's just these real images of, this guy had a lot of like 60s, 70s, 80s, definitely a lot of 80s stuff, but just, like the daughter's birthday party or, this wedding or just the family holiday, and just seeing the fashion and the hairstyles and everything. It was very cool, but there was something that I couldn't quite bring myself to like purchase people's old family photos. But I should get over that, because it's actually it's great, really cool. Yeah, but it's weird at the same time.
Berlin had that was one of my favorite markets. I would go every Saturday and Sunday. If I didn't make it on Saturday, I would go to the markets on Sunday in Prince Flowerberg. And oh my gosh, that was like my outing that I miss it to this day. I really I want to go back and just hang out. And go there. But there was a vendor there that had the same thing, and his were like dated late 1800s.
Yeah, that's
early 1900s. Like,
so cool.
It was crazy. And so our still photographer, Maddie, we would go together with him. I would hang out with him and his family. And his thing was to get those little small pocket photo albums. In each in each country that he goes to, because he finds like good images. And I was like, of course, that's such a great still photographer type of deal, to see this thing, to see the photography from back then. And it was, I never forget, he showed me this one book, and I was like, oh my gosh, like to see the film that it was on. Then you had to hold some things up to the light to see true images. Crazy stuff. So I was
that's so cool.
I love it. And then it's just like,
that's awesome.
It's some of the best. So I just try to, whenever I go out, I think about each kind of like little era from, if it's like early 1800s, whatever I can get my hands on, and I just kind of collect it up. But I don't want to be a hoarder. You come to my house like, what is all this stuff?
I know. It's like it's a fine line, isn't it? Because when where was I? In Budapest, in Hungary, and went to the flea market. It was so incredibly quiet. I don't know whether it was just open every day or what it was, but there was a big, fat, heavy photo album that had, would have been like, I don't know, around, I would say 1880. Around portraiture. And I still to this day, it's one of those regrets of not buying that. But I just looked at it, I was like, how's that going to get in my suitcase? Like, it's like, I should have just posted it back to myself, but it was just like, I still to this day, I can visually remember it so clearly, and I don't know why I walked away from it, but I wish I'd bought it, because the portraits in it with the women with their hairstyles and stuff, it was so beautiful. But of course, the album was starting to fall apart,
Yeah.
and it was just like, I was like, where am I going to put that?
Yes.
And how am I going to get it home? And, you know, I think back that I have the answers for all those questions, but
Yes.
never mind. Maybe it'll still be there when I go back to Budapest sometime.
You never know. You never know. Somebody else was thinking like, nah, this is too heavy to take. It's still that way.
Exactly.
Like, hello, Judy.
So what I would like to know, and something I ask everybody, is what one tool or product would you never want to be without?
Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
My nails are my tools.
Oh my goodness. This is not one that I've heard before, and I love it.
Yes, my nails. Oh my gosh. I have to show you pictures, send you pictures of my nails, and I get like cool like art design and stuff on them. This has been my thing since the very first day. Like I've always had nails, and I realized that they're my styling tools. I tried to go one time without them, and I was like, yeah, you know, give them a breather or whatnot. And I was like burning my fingertips. I was, you know, I didn't realize that, you know, I will hold the tip of the curling iron sometimes with them, or, you know, like say for instance, like especially men, like with the short cropped haircuts or curls and everything, like I'm able to maneuver hair really well with my nails. So which means I have the driest hands in the world that feel like cardboard. I feel sorry for my future spouse because they're going to have someone with hard hands because constantly washing them and scrubbing them down and using all the alcohol and stuff. But my nails are my tools.
I guess they're an extension of your fingers,
Absolutely.
right? Like, so you're sectioning with them and
everything, you name it. Taking out rubber bands, you know, like sometimes you can't get that little rubber band, so you got to grab something to go underneath it. But I can do it all. The most tedious things are like, oh, let's just get that one little hair. They're just my tool. They're like a rat tail comb. You know, you used to be
that's awesome.
A pintail comb. Yep, that's me. And then I have this Bass baby brush. That's one of my favorite ones too. With the board, super soft, and you know, it just kind of smooths when I need certain things. And outside of my favorite tool are my nails, but of course, a Mason Pearson.
Nice.
Yeah. And so far is my go-to product. It is White Sands Liquid Texture Medium Hold.
I had never, in New Zealand, there are probably about a quarter of the amount of hair products available to you than over here. Like there's so much hair product. When I first got here, I was just like, what is all this?
Yes, too much.
And just found it incredibly overwhelming because I was just like, oh my God, there's so many different product lines. But the White Sands is something that so many people that I've worked with have requested, like, can we get some White Sands? I'm like, okay, what is it? I still to this day have not really used it. I'm feeling bad because it seems to be a standard product that a go-to for people in their kits. So,
I love it. And like I said, it's the medium hold, the liquid texture, and it's a way, like, you know, depending on how you mist it over the hair, brush it through, let it naturally dry into the hair, and then create your curls or create your whatever movement that you want to do. You can mist it in damp hair depending on what the style is going to be, and, you know, leave it like that. For me, I just love it because just depending, like, sparingly how you use it, that it will hold your curl and or your texture, whatever your movement you want to do, and it's able to move. It's not crunchy. It's not, and I use it on all textures of hair. So whether it's more European hair, if it's more ethnic hair, like this, it doesn't matter. All across the board, it works.
Super versatile.
Very versatile. Yeah, like I say, it just depends on how you use it. And then I love Shu Umara, the Essence Absolute Hair Oil and Cream. That's one of my favorites. It smells really good too. Hopefully I pronounced the name right. I'm a little Southern, so sometimes it comes out a little different. Not a little Southern, I'm very Southern. and move around and,
That's awesome.
pick up accents everywhere I go.
That's cool.
And then I have a favorite hairspray, which is the Paul Mitchell Clean hairspray. And it's called the Red Top. And it's just, once again, one of those things that's been out forever. And I just love it. I like it.
Yeah, it's good when you find a hairspray you like.
Yeah. And then for like molding things and Nairobi wrap foam. So I just have like a couple of favorite go-to. Yep.
Yeah, we've all got them. It's good. And who would you like to hear on the podcast?
Well, you've interviewed quite a few of like some of my favorite people. From Carol Rashid, Lawrence Davis, Pilsner, bless his soul, it's not here anymore. And you've had Flora on there, Ivana, Debbie Young.
Debbie Young?
Mm-hmm. Did you interview her as well?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I haven't interviewed Debbie Young. Yeah. So I don't know Debbie. What does Debbie do? She's a hairstylist? She's makeup.
She's
okay, cool.
Watchmen, and she was on Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I met her when I was working on House of Cards, and I was like, this woman is really amazing and has an amazing spirit and just so good and calming and great at what she does. She works a lot with Mahershala Ali.
Oh, awesome.
She works with him a lot, and she's just an amazing, amazing artist. And we did Mare of East. She was the makeup department head and designer for Mare of East.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. She's amazing.
I love how I've gone from feeling like I know absolutely nobody in this industry to then doing this podcast and hearing about all these incredible artists. I love it.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Wonderful. Yeah, so many great people. I was like, oh my gosh, you've interviewed so many amazing hair designers and makeup designers. And I'm just, thankful that I got a chance to be interviewed too.
Well, Shanika, it's been so awesome chatting with you today. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was my pleasure.
For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks Podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.